And so we're back again with a new entrance in the case of looking at the character of Predaking in 2018. You see, we've been going through the oversized Jinbao KO of Nero Rex, who of course is based on MMC's Feral Rex. And so far we've looked at the arms, which as standalone figures are fantastic. As arms, it might be a little bit debatable. We've looked at the legs. And while they are solid and chunky legs, as standalone figures, they're a little questionable. What does that leave us with? This guy. It is their version of Razor Claw, the leader of the Predakons. Of course, this guy is also very popularly known as Leo Dux, and this is the oversized KO version of him. Is he good, bad? What category does he fall into? Well, we're going to address all of that in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share. And so very important, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe. Join us, be part of the community, have your voice heard. And this is the KO of Leo Dux from Jinbao. It is in the torso mode for Predaking. And it looks great. I mean, this looks really impressive. It's big, it's bulky, it's molded very nicely. Naturally, the official Feral Rex version is even better because it has more crisp lines and it just stands out with bold and brash coloring. Of course, I like this coloring too, even though this is highly stylized. As a torso, it looks great. But when we talk about his lion and robot modes, well, things aren't all rosy and beautiful. You see, we do have a hip skirt here that comes off and is a bit of a pain to deal with. On the KO, not all of the joints work smoothly, as we will see. Now, of course, I think that's specific to the KO. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure, but he might be the weakest of the bunch. Which is kind of a sad state of affairs, since he's also the center and the core of Nero Rex. Anyway, I've kind of babbled on long enough yet again. Let's head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And finally we get a chance here to take a look at the torso of our Jinbao oversized KO Nero Rex, based on Feral Rex, of course, by Mastermind Creations, and this is the KO version of Leo Dux, who of course is based, as I noted, on the character of Razor Claw, the leader of the Predakons, the body of Predaking, and really the grandfather, if you will, of the Predakons as we know them in Beast Wars. At least if you believe Dawn of Futures Past. I think that was the name of the story. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but here we have the torso. It is magnificent to look at, and it's an alright torso. It's okay. I know you're probably kind of shocked to hear me say it's only okay, but let me explain, if I may. We have a head that can go a little left and a little right, not much. Now there is a smaller head that does allow for better articulation. We'll look at that in a little bit. It may be the better option. The whole chest section, these pieces, and these lower pieces, neither of these move in robot mode or in this mode. They are one static piece, which means you can't really get them out of the way when he's in his individual robot mode, and here you can't get them out of the way to aid in articulation. But there's also an alternate to that. There's a bit of a fix for that as well. So I won't really hold that against them or the head, because if you want, you can change those out. So the head by rights can have a decent range of motion. Left, right, up, and down. Naturally, the smaller head gives you a better range of motion. This whole section here, I guess you can lift it up a bit out of the way, but you can take this off and put the other one on and allow for things to get out of the way a bit more. He does have a waist, which is cool. These shoulder cannon sections, they can go up and down. They can go right on his back if you're so inclined. It's really where you want to position them to. Naturally, these sections here are part of the body. They don't move because you would put the arms on over these pegs. And in terms of the legs here, well, the hip skirt can move out of the way. There's even side skirts here. They can move out of the way, and you can get 3 clicks to the side. You can get about 1 click back before it hits the rear skirt armor, which does not get out of the way. Going forward, you can't really get much, even with this out of the way. There's other pieces in here that it sort of hits off of, so you can't really get much. If you extend the leg a bit, you can get at least 1 click out. By the way, you can extend the leg like all the way if you're so inclined, and there's a significant difference in height depending on if you want the leg extended or not. Obviously, if you extend it, you do vastly improve his articulation. You also make him much taller, so it's up to you what you want for display purposes, but it is a nice option. I said a long time ago when I started analyzing these guys that combined this guy is about, I think it's about 17 inches, 16 inches, something like that. He extends to about 19 inches in height, which is impressive. That's a good size for this oversized. The actual one, I believe, and somebody can correct me on this, I believe the official measurement is about 12.5 inches, but really it's kind of taller than that when you include the wings and the cannons. It's probably more like 14, about the size of Primus, or the planet Cybertron, if you will, as recently released in the Last Night line. It can extend to about 16, 17 inches, so it is a little bit smaller because of course that's made up of Voyagers, and this guy is really made up of, well, bigger figures. He looks very imposing to display. He is not the most posable in this manner. Now, speaking of all that, of course we're going to measure this guy as we normally do, looking at his posability, playability, his colors, and of course his transformation. But before we do that, we really should kind of address the accessories that come with him. Naturally, the headpiece is on here now, as is the hip skirt. So I wanted to talk about this mode first because the hip skirt, well, that's actually a separate piece. You see, what you have is a front piece, you have a crossbar going down underneath, and then it attaches on the back right here on this gray hinge. You should remove it from that. And really, when you remove it from that, you have 2 little holes here that go over 2 little pegs on either side here. So you take that off, you can bring it all the way down around, and then you come over here. And when you come over here, you unpeg it from the front. You have a little rectangular slot right there, and you have a little rectangular peg right here. So this will be used in a couple of different ways. I find this extremely frustrating. So we'll take that out of it. And this is what we're left with as the absolute base of this guy. We're going to take him out of it as well and look at each accessory, and then we'll get into the main bot himself. And I spoke a little bit too soon. I couldn't quite take him out of the way yet. I just wanted to show this off. Here's the alternate head. You can see that it is significantly smaller. It is molded exactly the same, but it is significantly smaller. We're going to look at this closer in a second. Furthermore, I mentioned an alternate chest piece. Again, it is significantly smaller, but it is pretty much molded the same. It is not one piece. We're going to look at this up closer, but I just wanted to show you the comparison between what's on him now and what you can put on him. By the way, I'm going to talk about a particular hinge. It's in here. There's a gray piece that's attached to 2 sections on the side of the chest. Keep that in mind because it's going to be important in a few seconds. And first and foremost, that glorious head. I love the paint on this thing. It is definitely a little bit stylized, like there's more detailing on the faceplate than I think Predaking usually has, but come on, it's no mistaking that it's Predaking. To change out the heads, you just have a single screw in the back here. You take it out, you wedge the two pieces apart, you put it on over the ball joint that's there, and you put it back together. Like I said, with this smaller one on, yes, it's smaller, but it will allow a greater range of motion for down, up, but most importantly, side to side. And then we have this alternate chest piece. It is a nice looking chest piece. This is the way it would look on the individual robot mode, with the fringes folded in behind. If you want, of course, for line mode or for Predaking mode, you can rotate that fringe down. If I can figure out, there you go. Rotate that up, rotate that down, rotate that up. And this is what you can have for Predaking. This is what you can have in line mode. And of course, with this, if you wanted to do things like the waist swivel, I mean, you can move these up out of the way a bit to make that easier. You can even move these in a bit if you want something more stylized. It's up to you. How do you change this out? Well, the piece that's on there is attached with a gray armature, kind of like this. And what you have is a hole back here that this ball joint goes in. And you would just, of course, stick it in there. Then you have two little, let's see if I can show this, two little starts up right here. They just, you know, you push them in a bit, you slide this into the chest, and it just holds in there with friction quite well. The gray one that's in there now, if you wanted to leave that, you certainly could. It too holds in with friction. And there's a hinge right here, so you can still move the head once attached up and down and whatnot. And of course, the ball joint allows it to go left and right. But I like this. It is a great fix for anybody disturbed by the fact that the head that is currently on it is one static fixed piece. And I'll note it now since we're here. You have these two pieces. They go together to make part of the grand sword used by Predaking, but they also go together to make the tail of Leo Dux when he's in line mode. They're molded pretty much exactly the same. There's a teeth and groove system that holds them together. And you have a hinge here and a hinge, if I can do it now. There you have two hinges there, and when this is together, of course, like that, one section slots kind of into the body, the other is like the edge of the tail. He doesn't technically come with this, Fella Saber does, but it is intended for this guy. These two pieces come apart. Now yes, they make a part of the sword, but they are designed to go around another section and in line mode kind of cover up the face so we don't have the visible head syndrome that we know that many figures are famous for. And he comes with this gigantic cannon. Now, there's a peg here that can go into his arm. It's supposed to be able to go into one of the hind legs in line mode. It doesn't because the hole wasn't drilled for it. That's a shame. A lot of pieces go attached to this to make it. The huge arm cannon for Predaking himself. You can have this cannon look like this, or you can, you know, cannon gets larger, cannon gets smaller. It can extend if you want. It's really up to you how you want to display it with Leo Dux himself. So here we are with the base figure again, and I haven't given any grades to anything yet because I want to wait until we get him in robot mode. This is a case of the KO, I think, taking a lot of liberties that didn't particularly help the figure. It's not that it's bad, but there's a lot here that could have been done better, and we'll discuss it as we go through. We're going to put him in his line mode first, and then we're going to go to the robot mode last. So how do we handle the conversion for this guy then? If we want to get him to his line mode, well, you bring these shoulder cannons back. And if you didn't do it already, it's probably a good idea to push them down. I mean, they extend, you can leave them out if you want, but I think they're supposed to be down. In fact, I would lean these back because we need the room to work when dealing with the head section. You see, at this point you want to lift the lion head off, but it won't be able to just come up over. This kind of larger head section is just too big. It's in the way. So how do we deal with that? We come here and we pick the whole thing up, the whole neck section and both heads. You have Leo Duxes down here, you have Predakings up here. There's a ball joint just back right here in the neck section. You need to put both heads out. Passing the Predaking head through the neck section is challenging. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't, because it is, I guess, where it's oversized. I think using the smaller head would make this part way easier. You turn this around and then you feed the Predaking head down into the body. Once it's all the way down, you push the neck section back down and it kind of pushes down the Leo Dux head into position where we want it. Now you can pick the lion head up and bring it up over. There's a gray circular peg inside. It goes into the back of the Leo Dux robot mode head. So you bring this up over. You bring this up over and peg that neck section in. The head still has a little... I'm not going to pretend that there aren't things here that's a pain. This neck section here pegs into the back of Leo Dux's head. Getting it in there is a bit of a nuisance and a challenge. And then underneath you have the Predaking face and you have Leo Dux's face peering out at you. We'll deal with that in a moment. These shoulder cannon pieces, you position like this for now. Alright. Since we mentioned the face is being visible down here, let's deal with it. And we use this gray peg here to do so. I'm going to position things and we'll kind of move on from there. Alright, so all we've done so far is kind of flip the heads around, put the robot heads into the body, bring up the lion head and peg it into the back of Leo Dux's robot cranium. But now we have visible faces down here, and that's no good. I mentioned those couple of parts that come with Fella Saber, and on those parts you have a little notch right here that can fit on over. Actually, I'll do it on this side first. Just like that. And we do the same thing with the other side. There's a couple of little notches that fit on over. And then these pieces close together and fold up. Now the body is filled in and you can't see those faces. That's really the main point of that piece. At least for now, when we're talking about the individual robot. So, moving on, we straighten out this paw. There's a little rectangular slot there and a little rectangular peg here that locks it in. We bring the paw down and the whole thing forward. Of course, we do the same thing over here. We untab it, bring the whole paw down and forward. You can put these combiner pegs back if you are so inclined. Reposition that. And we really have the front of the line mode now completed. And it looks pretty cool. Of course, we still need to deal now with the lower body. Well, that's thankfully, I guess, a little bit easier. We take the whole upper body and we take the whole lower body and we rotate it. You see, there's a gray circular piece here, and this little piece is attached to it. I guess you could bring it to the lower part of the body, but I would leave it on top. I believe that's how it's supposed to be. So we rotate the lower body around. And now the lower tummy and kind of front pelvis and hip section of Predaking is, you know, facing, I guess, up. We bring these out of the way and we just make sure that we have the legs here collapsed as much as we can. We come to the side and we bring this paw down. We wiggle it out of there and bring it down the rest of the way. We rotate that paw around. Bit of a nuisance, really. Over here, same thing. We take that out. We rotate the leg down. And we turn the paw around. Whew. And in essence, we have Leo Dux in his line mode, but of course he's missing several things here. His tail, his cannon, and this piece, which is, in my estimation, a nuisance. I'll say this as well. I firmly believe that part of the frustration and trouble with this guy is the fact that his instructions, out of all of them, are the absolute worst. His are just terrible. So a lot of this has been complete guesswork. And I know that there are liberties taken from the actual Leo Dux. And I think it's fair to say that those liberties did not help this figure. The actual Leo Dux works a lot better and a lot more smoothly than this. Okay, the cannon section first should go on the back right there. There should be a hole kind of in right here. Guess what? It's not drilled in there. But if you want to have this on anyway, just because, you can still affix it to one of the front paws. It's not as good, it isn't right, but it's an option of something that you can do. Of course, if we had the line head section changed for this one, if you didn't have the fringes already out, you would put them out. If you had the Predaking head changed out for this smaller one, you would find that you're having a far easier time maneuvering the heads in the beginning of this transformation. Now that we are here, we need to take the two pieces that are like this, and we have a tooth here and a slot, and we have a tooth here and a slot, and these two pieces slide into one another like that. We have on the back of these legs, and I really don't know how else to kind of explain it, we have two little pieces sticking up here and here, kind of right in behind my finger. You're supposed to take the tail and it sandwiches in there and between the other side. And for me, here's where a lot of the nuisance of this guy comes in. We have these two sections here. There's a little rectangular slot inside each one, and you have a vertical rectangular section right here that kind of sandwiches in between these two little plastic sections sticking up. While you're trying to sandwich the tail, there's also a peg and a slot on each leg that needs to go into each other to hold the main body together. So you're trying to kind of squeeze everything at once. Lining it up can be a little bit of a nuisance. Once it's done, it's fine. Like, you will know when you have it lined up correctly, but getting it there can be a bit of a pain. Of course, it's not nearly as much of a nuisance as dealing with this, and I was a long time trying to figure out what to do with this hip skirt piece thing that I don't like, that the instructions are just awful for. It gets in different configurations for different reasons. I think I have it figured out for this, but I really can't guarantee it for 100% because the instructions are just so bad in this regard. So, we have a lot of moving pieces on this. Very first thing that you want to do is there's a little tab right there. You want to put it into a notch right there, and same here. Now the whole hip skirt, front hip skirt, is one piece. See if I can kind of show this to you now. So we have the two hip skirts facing like this. And what you want to do is turn the rear one so that now it's facing down. You want to bring it all the way in. And you would think bring it up, but that's not quite what you're doing. Then you fold it in. And when you fold it in, you're going to have a little rectangular peg that goes into a slot here. Now you fold the whole thing back up. And you will still have exposed the two little sections here that have holes in it. And just like we had them connected to Predaking, you take that and you put it on over the two little pegs here. and then you bring that down on the back. I'm sure that there's kind of other configurations and ways to do it, but that is the way that I have found for it to work. Again, some people would argue that this piece should be down and underneath, and perhaps there's merit to that, but in the end, really, boom, here you have Leo Dux in his lion mode. So I put his huge cannon on the other front paw just to make it easier here to kind of deal with things. Articulation. The head can go left and right. The jaw does open and close. It can look up a bit, down a bit because it's on a ball joint. Nothing huge. No great range of motion. The paws, the front paws can go out to the side. They can, have a knee back. They can have a knee forward. You can rotate this piece around. Perhaps you're even supposed to, but the instructions do not make that clear. The claws on the front paw, you can move them how you see fit and make the front leg kind of the position you want it. On the back, these legs go forward and back. Not much out to the side, if any. We have a knee joint up here and a knee joint down here, and these sections can move. Not as much movement on the back as I would have liked. We still kind of have the waist swivel, but I find in moving it that you're probably going to knock this piece off. And for the tail, of course, we have a hinge up here, as I previously mentioned. We have a lower hinge down here, again, as I previously mentioned. It's certainly effective. He looks like an imposing lion, that's for sure. I don't know if it's my favorite version of this. Just to touch on the TFC Ares incarnation of Razor Claw, Neeming, I'm not even sure how you say his name. I think it's Neeming. I think that of all the offerings we got, whether we're talking about the oversized KO, a Feral Rex here, the actual Feral Rex, the Unique Toys incarnation, or the TFC one, I think that in lion mode, the TFC one looks the most, I don't know, like I could believe it's a lion. I think it's the best looking one, but of course, that's just me personally. And that's just my own personal take on it. For me, I like the look of that lion mode the best. Not saying it functions the best, and not saying it's not open to debate, but it kind of strikes some chords for me. It'll be interesting to see what we have upcoming for this character. This guy definitely has the most parts for me, with the tail having to go in, these sections having to go on. It is what it is. Okay, so now that we've looked at this, let's go to his last mode, that being his robot. Of course, that being said, in order to get to that mode, we actually have to do some parts forming here. We will remove the cannon on his front paw. We will split the legs here and take the tail out of it again. By the way, that tail, from what I can tell, does not incorporate in robot mode. If I'm wrong, there's somebody can point it out. And we have to take this whole piece off again from there. Not a big deal, but for people who complain about parts forming, we still do have some of it going on here. This guy again gets kind of big, so we'll do the best that we can going through here. Maybe we will try and deal with his lower body first and work our way up, because the lower body is really the challenge for this guy. So we collapse the legs back in. And the paw comes down and out straight like that. We bring the leg up and we tab it back in. Over on this side, we bring the leg up, we tab it in, we bring this all the way down, and oh, we can leave the paw just as it is. We take these knee peg sections and we push them back, and these knee peg sections and push them back. Now here's an interesting thing. We have these hinges back here, these gray hinges. I have no idea what they're for. I'm sure that they have a reason, but I'll say this. There is absolutely nothing in the instructions that explain what they're for. I'd love to know. If you know, let me know. Okay, so we have that up, which is fine. This will kind of work as a heel spur. I like that idea, but the problem is now we need to get these feet down, and on this version, the KO, that is not fun. They're on a slider, and the slider is unfun. unpleasant. Absolutely unpleasant. So I'm going to try to get these down. Let's hope I have luck. I kind of done two things at once there. We brought the slider down here. That brings down the kind of ankle and foot. We straightened up the foot. And at the same time, we extended the entire leg. So we're going to try and do the same thing on this side, I guess. Entire leg extended. And then bringing that down. Actually, they came down nicer than I have ever encountered them. Once we have that done, well, here we are with the lower body really done. And it's weird. I'll talk about why part of this is really weird in a few minutes. You swivel at the waist. Again. And I guess you can just kind of bring that down. And that's where we're to. We can even at this point bring this section down that hid the head and split these two pieces to take them off. Remove that and remove that. And bring this little section down. Gonna get those out of the way a little bit for now. The entire head of the animal here goes unpegged from the back of Leo Dux's head and kind of, get these front paws out of the way, kind of comes down over here and slots into position right there. Straighten that up and we slot it in. And I'm just going to reposition things slightly to finish it off here. Okay, so we've extended the legs down as far as they will go. We brought the front shin down and the foot. We closed up these on the side. We brought the whole lion head forward. We just sort of repositioned Leo Dux's head there. We make sure that this is incorporated right there. If you have the smaller head attached, you can close up these fringes. You can't in this case. We can kind of bring these up a little bit to the shoulder. We rotate the shoulder and rotate the shoulder. Straighten it out, probably like that. We bring the paw up. We open out that section there. Bring this down like that. And for now we'll have to kind of put it like that. Do the same thing over here. We bring the paw up. We open up the back. We bring out the hand. We close it up. And we turn the arm like this. And in the end, boom, here we have him in his robot mode. There is a couple of things to note here that really do kind of bug me to no end. And I'm sure that it is just because this is the KO. First of all, we do have gorilla arms. You can pop these fists out. There are alternate ones, so he does have a wrist swivel. I won't really hold that against him because it can be fixed. And then we come to the legs, and I want to point this out because it's so strange to me. The idea is that, maybe I can get this hip skirt out of the way to show it. The idea is that you have 1 and 2 sections in right here, and they should both be visible. I cannot get the leg to come down any further, so we're just slightly missing the bottom one. I don't want to pull on it anymore because I'm uncomfortable doing so. But you will notice on this side that we have no screw hole, no screw hole, no screw hole. That's fine. It's all just molded plastic. Yet, oddly, on the other side we have screw holes here, here, and here. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. It seems like a strange way to assemble these legs to me. I don't like that these are on sliders, and I don't think it works particularly well on the KO. I'm sure sure it works better on the actual version. Then we have some parts to deal with again. The first is this huge cannon. And this huge cannon, we'll say, can go on this arm over here. There's a hole right here. And we can just peg it in there. Of course, if you want to turn the arm and have it to the outside, you can. The fist is facing up now, but that can be fixed. Then we have to deal again with that bothersome, I guess, waist piece. And I wanted to show this piece specifically. For the record, I don't like this piece at all. Not a bit. I don't like the way it's engineered. I don't dig it. It's not for me. It's just not for me. Here's how we have it when it's attached as the waist skirt for Predaking. I already said that to go to the line mode, we took it and we brought it up around like that and turned it around and brought it up and attached it here. Okay, so how do we get it from here to what's going to be an arm shield mode? Well, it's a little bit different because now when we open it up, we need this peg here to be left free. And again, the instructions are just awful at telling you what you're supposed to do here. See if I can show this to you. We take it, we rotate it around, we bring it up. Put that piece in, that peg goes back in, and this goes together like this. It should look in this configuration, and we should have this peg free. It's a rectangular peg. That rectangular peg goes onto a rectangular section here on the arm. It does not fit the best on the KO. And it can be a bit of a nuisance to line it up. Once you have it in, it looks like this. I will tell you now, boom, this is the robot mode, and it is the most tedious, unpleasant of all the figures in my opinion. I don't really like this. I don't think that it looks like the leader of a group. I think it just looks like one of the other cats. It's not that it's bad. And I'm sure that the actual Leo Dux is way better. My commentary here now is about the KO. This is not the most successful of the set in individual bot mode. That's for sure and certain. Let's talk about his colors. Actually, before we do that, let's just note that, again, as I have previously stated before, this is an oversized version. The regular one is about Voyager scale, so here he is next to the Power of the Prime's Grimlock, and you can see he's much bigger than Grimlock. The actual one is about this size, but bulkier, of course. This guy matches up best with Leader and Masterpiece figures, size-wise anyway. Here he is next to the Power of the Primes, Leader Evolution Optimus Prime, and he's even a bit bigger. Like, this is kind of an imposing incarnation of the character, and I still think that for now, despite the imperfections, this is the way to go if you're looking at having a masterpiece representation on your shelf. So I'm after saying that I recommend him if you want a masterpiece version, but I don't like him. And no more, I don't. Let's talk about the paint apps first. Again, I love the black and the purple and stuff here. I think it's fantastic. It's great. I love it. But that's not the whole story. We have the actual colors for this guy. And with the actual colors, we have mostly gold on the mane here, where we have purple, and the outer edging is orange instead of being black, and the face is yellow with red eyes. And of course, we still have the red eyes here. These shoulder pieces up here are still black with some red detailing inside. The cannons are more gray on his back. The arms have kind of a yellow shoulder and then a red section in right here where this purple is. And then the lower arms are also yellow with black fists. We have yellow on the thighs and black on the lower legs with some gold detailing where we have purple and silver here. And the lower feet sections are red. In terms of paint, it is definitely, most assuredly, razor claw. And for that reason, I'm going to give the paint a 9.5, whether we are talking about the official version or this. The paint is terrific on the guy. I even respect how they tried to incorporate the shield and the big cannon. That's great. Incorporating parts, that's fantastic. If you're going to parts form, that's the way to do it. No doubt. But now we get into articulation. And I'll say it now. The actual Leo Dux does much better here than this guy does. Undoubtedly. The head goes left, goes a little bit left and right, a little up and a little down. Nothing major. Taking this off his arm, because it's only going to fall out anyway. The arms can go out to the side, both of them, like no problem, on nice ratchets. The shoulder, if you get that out of the way, the shoulder will go forward and back, no problem. This is why I would say change this head out, because it does hinder shoulder articulation. We have a bicep swivel. We have a nice deep elbow. Actually, if we turn the bicep this way, we have getting that out of the way again, we have a nice double elbow. You see how having this fringe here unable to move can be a hindrance and a nuisance. The hand right now is facing backwards because these can't move, but I already explained we can pop them out and put in ones that have wrist swivel. So that would get rid of the kind of gorilla arm here and allow you to orient the arms correctly. We have a waist swivel. That works nicely. I like the waist swivel. And the legs can go out to the side, no problem. Both of them can. He can do the splits fantastic on heavy ratchets. Kick forward is fine, really all the way forward and all the way back. I like that. We have a thigh swivel. But then we come to the lower legs, and that's where the KO fails. We have a knee that is, even having this extended all the way, you know what, that's about as far as you're getting with the knee. It is so lackluster. But that being said, you can bend it all the way forward this way, oddly. So I suppose you could turn this around and do this, right? Wrong, because you can't rotate this section around. With the KO, you're stuck with a terrible knee. Now, some might say, hey, I don't have the leg extended quite all the way. I can't. That's the problem. I can pull on that as I want, and I don't want to break it. You can't really extend it all the way. I'm sure results vary, but on this one you can. And that means when you try to stand him up, you can't really do that successfully either, because you have these sections down here kind of just staying out. Now, you can take the combiner peg, if you haven't pushed up all the way, and bring it down a bit. And if I straighten this leg up and straighten this leg up and lean him back, kind of put these toes down. You know, I guess you can, but like it's tedious and it's not that secure. So for the actual Leo Dux, his articulation, I know it works more smoothly than this, and I'm going to give his articulation overall, I'm going to give that about a 9. It's pretty great. I'm still not a huge fan of sliders, but it's pretty great and things work well on it. But for the KO, I have to say, because of these, see, a nice catch, eh? Because of these lower legs being what they are, his articulation is about a 5. I don't like it at all. His transformation is again about a 5 because I absolutely can't stand this piece, and things on it are just a pain to move. I'm sure that it's easier if you replace the lion head and the Predaking head, but it's not, this one, it wasn't fun for me. Not hard, just not fun. The actual Leo Dux, that's better. So overall, the KO in this case gets a score of about a 6, 6.5. It's definitely the weakest of the whole set, which is a bit of a shame since it's the torso of Predaking. The actual Leo Dux, that thing is still a good solid 9. It is a fantastic figure, and it does not have the issues or the shortcuts that this one does, of course. What about the version from TFC? That's the core of Ares. I like his look in both modes, and I think he's pretty accurate in both modes. I can't speak for the articulation, but everything that I've seen indicates it's pretty good. He is probably fairly comparable, but I don't know if it looks as imposing or impressive. It looks more cartoon-ish, if that makes sense. And though I like it, I understand why a lot of people would not. Overall, if the actual Leo Dux is, say, a 9, I would say Neiman is probably around an 8. Anyway, that's kind of the story on this guy. He's not perfect. And that's really a bit of a shame. So, alas, we are back here yet again, and I have him back in this mode, mostly because the next thing to look at is going to be him totally combined, and while that looks really impressive, we will see if it's actually good or bad or somewhere in between. As a torso, he looks great. There are certain functionalities here that are peculiar, such as the leg movement, especially forward. Such as the legs being able to extend up or down to make the combiner taller. In terms of his line mode, it looks pretty wonderful, but the hind legs are pretty limited on this guy. And I really don't like the hip skirt as a shield or as that other odd piece on the back of the lion mode. This head here, the animal head, feels like thin plastic, not as good as the arms and the legs. There's things here to like, there's things here that just don't work. Not the least of which are those hinges on the feet. I thought that they were going to be my undoing, to be perfectly honest with you. I get nervous transforming this guy because the things that are on slider mechanisms don't slide as smoothly as I would like them to. Yes, he looks great, but I don't get the sense that he's a leader. He still looks kind of thin and somewhat spindly. Yes, he fits in with the aesthetic, but I feel like as a leader there should be something a little more substantial with this guy, and I don't get that feeling. His silhouette looks good, but it's no more special really than either of the other cats that we've looked at. Except for this big lion head on the chest. And even that can be a hindrance. I'd like to say that this guy is the best of the bunch, but the truth is he just isn't. Though, to be fair, I am sure that the actual release from MMC is indeed better. As for the TFC offering, at least I feel like Neiman is a leader. He has that stature to him. That regalness to him that this guy just doesn't seem to have, at least in my personal opinion. Does that mean he's not worth getting? Well, again, that depends on your collecting habits. I can see the argument for why he would be excellent. But objectively, I have to say, there are a lot of things here that were sacrificed for the combined mode and sacrificed because this guy was a KO. Let me know what you think about him. As always, I'm going to say again, hit that subscribe button, join us, let me know your thoughts, opinions, anything. And of course I want to thank you for your very valuable time because I know how important it is to you. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.